Hey everybody, Jim from Jim's Coleus. The weather has finally arrived here in New Jersey. It's 75 here on the Jersey Shore. It's 80, I think Bergen County, which is north of here, is like 80. So spring has arrived. You can see cherry trees blossom, the forsythia bushes. Where are you? There we are. Forsythia bushes. They're one of the first to bloom anyway. They're like early spring. So as soon as the sun starts to show a little more, those forsythias, they're boom. So anyway, hardening Coleus. Hardening isn't exclusively for Coleus, but you're here for Coleus, I assume. Harden your Coleus. Do this before you plant your Coleus outdoors. This applies to Coleus that you grow from seed, Coleus that were indoors. You want to harden them, and what hardening is gently introducing them to the outdoors a little each day before you plant them outdoors. Situations where you don't have to necessarily harden is if you go to a nursery or a plant center or home center and they have Coleus that are already outside. Here in New Jersey, it may be a little later in the season until they actually do have them, but you don't have to harden Coleus plants or plants that you buy at a nursery that are already outside, because they've already been hardened or introduced to the outdoors by the grower. So this really applies to you, like myself, who grow them from seed, whose Coleus have been in an indoor nursery or greenhouse setting. You don't want to put them right outside into the ground right away. You need to gently show them, give them the experience of being outdoors. And I'm going to show you how to do that really simply. It's a very, very simple concept, and you can apply that to any plant or vegetable that you grow from seed. Okay, so you can see the racks are empty. This tray here, these are still pretty young. These are the Coleus that I featured on a short last week. These were those Saturn's rings, or Saturns, and there's a few others I threw in there. I just planted these. I just transplanted these. They're a little too young to really put out to harden, and not really ready to go hardening. So as far as hardening goes, yeah, there is sort of a size before you want to put them out. These are still very, very young, so you don't want to harden these just yet. Just a little guide for you. Okay, so here we go. This is how I get my steps in, everybody. Try to get my 10,000. I blow 10,000 away every day. I'm usually 14 to 15,000 steps a day. And then once I start out in the greenhouse, I'm like 18,000. So anyway, really quick here. This is hardening. Here's my clementine tree, which it lost a lot of leaves, but it's still alive. So I put it out this morning. Needs lots and lots of sun, so I'm hoping we can get this thing back. I don't grow a lot of vegetables. We buy some tomato vegetables at the nursery, put them in. But here's some peppers, and there's a couple of basil plants there. Have them out in the sun direct, but they're out in the sun. Fairway mosaics. Here's just a few of my trays. I keep them out. Partial sun. This isn't really harsh summer sun yet, so it's not really baking sun. If you live in the sun belt, I don't suggest you put your hardening plants out in direct sun right away. Put them into more of a sun and shade setting. All right, here you go. And I have 6 or 7 trays out front. I have a total of 15 trays. So I have some out in the back here and in the front. And this is on my deck. Got the umbrella, some shade. And what hardening is, it just gets them used to being outdoors. The wind, the change in temperature, just the heat from the sun. It does get a little bit of sun. And I put the timer on in my house for 90 minutes. So I'm just going to put these out for 90 minutes. And then I'm going to bring them back in. And then what you do the next day if you can, or the day after, depending on what time you have, you want to do this for at least a week. Bring them out, and then towards the end of that week or what have you, you want to leave them out up to like 2 hours. Make sure that they get used to being outdoors. If this was a really heavy, windy, gusty day of 30-mile-an-hour winds, I wouldn't put them out. That's too much wind. They're still too tender. You don't want to damage them or wind burn them. It's 73 out. I wouldn't recommend hardening your Coleus if the temperatures are in the 50s. I wouldn't harden my plants in temperatures below 60 degrees, honestly. And if it's 60 degrees out and there's a wind, I wouldn't recommend it, because you can burn your Coleus. I've made that mistake. So if you're in the 70s, high 60s, it's a nice day, it's sunny, calm, with a little bit of breeze, that's the ideal time to put out your Coleus. And again, this applies to any plant that you grow from seed. You want to harden them, get them used to being outdoors. And these really need to get into the greenhouse. I'm hoping to move them in next week, because they can only get so big in these nursery pots. They need to be put into bigger pots. Okay, so now these are up on my griddle. I'll have these in sun. Again, everything's out for 90 minutes. Now these, I'm not going to leave these in sun for 90 minutes. I'm going to give them about a half an hour. There's no rhyme to reason here. I didn't put these in sun and not those for any particular reason. I just put them here, and I'll just rotate them all around and put the other ones over here, give them a little bit of sun. We want to get them used to the stress of sun and wind. And also, I'm going to give them a good shot of water, because they're definitely going to get dried out here in the sun, especially here. Again, Coleus like moderation and everything. They don't like saturated soil. They like moist soil, but they don't like dry soil either. So moderation, and make sure all your pots are drained. They have drain holes. Okay, and here's out front of my house. I still have my planters, which I plant Coleus in these also. A little busier out here. You can see you got some dappled shade, sun, shade, and wind. It's a little windier out here. So again, about 90 minutes. I'm going to keep an eye on them, about 90 minutes, and then I'm going to go back inside. So make sure you harden your Coleus or plants that you grow from seed in your home. Make sure you harden them at least for a week or so, every day for 90 minutes, up to 2 hours towards the end, before you plant them outside. And don't plant them outside if you live in a frost zone. Don't plant them outside if the night temps are going to be in the upper 40s or so. I don't plant any of my plants outdoors until at least the second week of May, because it's just too harsh. And again, this is all general information depending on your grow zone, so you can look that up on where you live and so forth. So I have been trimming them. Some of them you can see up top here. I've been trimming them. I only have so much room in my rack, and I do trim them, and that gets that bottom growth in. So I do a little bit of trimming. At this point, this size, it's good to start trimming, and that'll start to divert that energy down below to get the bottom growth coming. You can actually see some bottom growth coming in already, and that is due to trimming. So you can trim at this point. Don't go crazy, just the top 2 nodes that are coming in. For example, these 2 here, you can trim these 2 over here. So you can start to trim your Coleus at this point. Okay, everybody, so short and sweet, to the point. This is very important. I can't stress to you how important it is to harden your plants. Again, it's not difficult to grow Coleus, but there are a few things. And just a real quick story about How I've made mistakes years ago when I first started out. My wife actually bought me a dozen or 2 dozen live Coleus plugs, little Coleus like this. Around this time of year, they came in the mail, and I immediately put them outside, not knowing, didn't educate myself. This was, I want to say this was 15 years ago, before I really got into it. I didn't really have the smartphone technology like we have today, really, and I didn't really educate myself about it. And anyway, planted them all outside, and the next day I came out and they were all dead because it got kind of chilly overnight and they were way too young and they died. So make sure you harden your plants, your Coleus or whatever plant you have. Check your zone, check your frost date, which is the last date. Everybody has one, unless you live in the Sun Belt. Check your frost date. In New Jersey, May 6th is the last date, the really point where the danger of frost is gone. And I don't put any of my Coleus outside. I don't, and my rootings, I don't pot them. I don't put them outside in my pots until after that frost date. So we've got plenty of spring and summer and fall beyond that. So, all right, so I hope this really helps out everybody. Any questions, comments, leave them below. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week and weekend. Thanks for watching Jim's Coleus.